We are going off to Facebook and their Metaverse division. They're kind of down bad right now. So the social media giant said they lost $13.7 billion on the division in 2022, and that's on a revenue of $2.2 billion. The company has previously said it expects operating losses in 2023 to grow significantly as Meta continues to invest in what it believes to be a crucial part of its future. On an earnings call on the 1st of February, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg honed in on virtual reality, noting that there are over 200 virtual reality apps in their ecosystem, and they make more than $1 million in revenue from those. Let's hear what else they had to say about VR.
The MR ecosystem is relatively new, but I think it's going to grow a lot over the next few years. Later this year, we're going to launch our next generation consumer headset, which will feature Meta reality as well. And I expect that this is going to establish this technology as the baseline for all headsets going forward, and eventually, of course, for AR glasses as well.
All right, Adam, I'm going to pass this off to you. We have MR, which is meta reality, VR, which is not quite the metaverse, but may give us access to the metaverse. We have Mark Zuckerberg saying he still completely believes in that, despite that almost $14 billion loss. What do you make of where Meta is right now when it comes to the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, Meta is in an interesting, I'm just going to call them Facebook forever. Facebook is in an interesting situation right now. Again, they've invested heavily into this. They think that it's the future. A lot of people think that it's the future, but there's a difference between being like, hey, yeah, I think that's going to be big, and hey, yeah, let me spend $100 billion on this right now, hoping that I can make it big. It's a big bet for them. It's an existential bet for them at a certain point, you know, depending on how far they wind up taking it. Personally, I kind of hope they win just because I would like VR and AR technology to advance very, very rapidly. And kind of comparing where we are today to where we would need to be for this to actually have been a good decision for Meta, like they need this to advance a lot from where it is. And so you'll find over and over again that companies, especially in their situation where they're really dominant in one area and that area is kind of fading. Again, people aren't using Facebook because it's cool. They're using Facebook because that's where grandma is. You know, like at that point, you got to think of the next thing. And their strategy of just buying competitors hasn't really worked. They're kind of all suffering in the same way. They need a big win. I don't know if this is it. It's expensive either way. And I will just mention that, you know, this jump in share price also corresponds with the Federal Reserve meeting, which ended yesterday, and which kind of like surprised markets to the upside, because even though Fed Chair Jerome Powell continues to say that things are going to be worse for longer, which in modern markets means markets aren't going to go up. Markets don't really believe them anymore. And we've seen significant rallies across all risk assets. So this kind of was nicely timed to fit into that as well. Call it the nobody believes Jerome Powell trade. What do you think, Zach?
I think this is a really big bet on whether Mark Zuckerberg can get lightning in a bottle twice, right? This is a guy who basically brought social media into mainstream existence back in 2004, right? That became something that really changed American society and ultimately the global society in terms of how we interact with people, right? Can he do it again? Does he have the same intuition to identify another major trend that could reshape how we interact with each other online? And he's putting some big money behind that bet. I think for me, that's like the big sort of meta human drama. Sorry for saying meta drama, subtextual story that is interesting to watch this unfold. Quarter by quarter, we're probably just going to be along for the ride. But at some point, it comes down to that. Can he predict the future again? He happens to be putting significant resources into this second bet. Will it ultimately pan out? And will the metaverse be as normal to us in some future date as social media is to us now? And that to me is like the really interesting story here, whatever the quarter by quarter results end up being. Will, I got to toss it to you.
Yeah, the few things I want to bring up is one, that Apple's also developing a headset. So we see that like a lot of these big FANG companies are betting on this, and Apple's not a FANG company itself, but there's a lot of these tech companies that have a lot of money, deep pockets. They've changed American society, they've changed Western society over the last few years, and they're really leaning into this metaverse VR headset idea. And I think a lot of us on the show have been pretty bearish on the idea. We don't quite get it, but there must be something in the water for them to want to pick it up. And that leads me to my second point is, he said on this call that they had about 200 apps. Each app in this VR headset generates about $1 million in revenue. That's significant. That's not something yet, but a lot of companies would love to have $1 million in revenue per year. And so if they have 200 applications so far that are already doing that, that might be driving them somewhere, at least a little bit. I will say I'm pretty bearish on this overall, though, and I think a lot of the markets are. Jen, I'll throw it to you for last take.
I guess my final thought that I will leave you guys in the audience with is, has Meta become too big? Are there too many stakeholders? Are there too many regulatory eyeballs on them to actually innovate, move fast, and break things in the space? And I guess, we'll see if they're able to do that. But we might find that they just, they've become too big and their time has come. But only time will tell. Zach?
Yeah, only time will tell.